Welcome once again to 720 and 720. This is John Schulman, big-time guest, national champion. Is that correct, Scott? National champion?
Yes, 1993.
All right, well, hold on. Let me keep on with the introduction there, brother. All right, I just had to know. National champion basketball player at the University of North Carolina, former Division I head coach with 4 championships in a row. That's done at High Point all the time, winning 4 in a row. We've got Scott Cherry on 720 and 720. Scott Cherry, welcome, young man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate
it. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
When people introduce you like that, you won a national championship as a player, a great player. That's correct because we don't watch a lot of film back in the day, correct? So you were one of the best players on that team.
Of course.
Who would you play with at Carolina? Give me your group.
The year we won it, we had Eric Montross, George Lynch, Derek Phelps, Brian Reese. Donald Williams ended up being the most valuable player in the Final Four.
He didn't make any shots during that Final Four, did he?
Only 10 of 14 threes. Only 50 points in 2 games.
Struggled shooting that ball.
Yeah, he was struggling.
Lynch is actually coaching down at Clark, Atlanta.
He is.
And my son Max plays at UAH and played them. That's one of the games that I missed. But my wife said, "Who is that cool guy coaching at Clark?" And I was like, "Just focus on our son, sweetie. Just focus on Max." But I mean those were because what I really want to do. Some of this podcast is really is trying to help young coaches. Me and you are old. You're not as old as me, but me and you have been through the wars, and you played for one of the elite guys to ever blow a whistle. And people are forgetting about him, which is very sad now. I mean, people don't, people kind of remember John Wooden and they kind of remember Dean Smith, but it's up to guys like you to keep his name relevant and to teach other young people what he taught you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Because when I was a little kid growing up in East Tennessee, I thought he hung the moon. I still remember watching games with them have a little flipboard in the corner of the court so when he watched tape, he could know what the score was. And I remember reading his first book and going through all of his stuff. He was the most innovative guy to ever coach in college basketball, and he was the guy. So it's up to you now for the next 20 to 25 minutes to tell us, Scott Cherry, because you're going to be back in coaching, young man, all right? Because you won 4 straight Big South championships at High Point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How many people have done that before at High Point? I'm just curious.
Well, at the time that happened, there was only 4 schools in America. It was us, Gonzaga, Kansas, and Stephen F. Austin that had won 4 or more regular season championships in a row. You
didn't kill anybody over there, did you? I mean, you didn't commit any crimes of major proportions?
No, I'm still under contract right now, so I've got to.
I got you. All right.
I can't promise what my wife will do.
All right, I understand. All right, so let's do this. Let's go back to 93. All right, because I worked for a Carolina guy, Jeff Lebo, and I was fortunate enough to go back over there a couple times and kind of see some really neat things that was happening that was going on at North Carolina. But what did you take as a young coach from Coach Smith being an older coach? What did you take from him, and why were you so successful at High Point as a basketball coach, and what did you use from the good old days with Dean Smith?
Well, I think to answer that question, I think you have to start with Coach Smith, and the greatest attribute that he had, I mean, unbelievable mind in terms of the game of basketball, X's and O's, making adjustments, drawing up a play on the fly. But his greatest ability and attribute was his ability to get all, at that time we had 15 full scholarship guys, is to get each guy to understand and accept their value and their role on the team. and to get each individual to sacrifice what they may want as an individual for the betterment of the team. And in today's world, it's a very difficult thing to do as a coach. It's a very difficult thing to do in today's society of me, of, what's in it for me? How do I get something out of this? And he recruited the right type of individuals to fit the way he wanted to play, his philosophy, but also got McDonald's All-Americans to buy into being a part of something greater than themselves. And that, in terms of being a coach, that is the greatest thing that you can do. It's the hardest thing to do. I tried to work on it every single day of figuring out whether it's the first, your best player all the way down to your last guy on the bench. What is their value? How can they help the team? What is their weaknesses, and help them work on those, but also to get them to believe and buy in every single day to what they can do for the greater good to ultimately achieve a prize that never goes away.
And we used to talk about our guys at Chattanooga. If we win, you win. It don't
Absolutely.
matter. It don't matter what you do. It don't matter if we win. Everybody's a winner in here. All right.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
It's not that individual awards were not important to him. I don't want anybody to think that. If a guy was a player of the year in the league, if he won most valuable player of the Final Four, he greatly celebrated those things. But ultimately, like what you said, when we win, if we win, we all win. It's a thing that people will forget. Okay, who was the most valuable player in the Final Four in 1993? Now, some junkies might know that, but who won the national championship in 1993? Everybody can remember that for the most part. Nobody knows how many minutes I played. Nobody knows how many points I scored, but everybody that I talk to knows that I'm a national champion. And that's something that you can't ever take away. A banner, a ring can never be taken away from you. And that was one of the things that I tried to work on a daily basis as a coach, to get kids to understand that is way more valuable, and it'll benefit you in the long run with your life, because I would never have become a head coach as quickly as I did and gotten a lot of the things that I've gotten in my life if I didn't play for Coach Smith, if I didn't play for North Carolina, and if we didn't win a national championship. I mean, that's just facts of life.
Mm-hmm. Tell me two things here. How did he make, because I think this is a problem with a lot of us, we really like those first 8 guys and 9 guys, and we're in their business all the time because they're helping us win. How did he make number 13, 14, and 15 feel, and how did he do it?
Because he included you every day in the plans of practice. He included you every day in the execution of late game situations, of half court offense, of half court defense, of anything that was going on in practice. He included you. It didn't mean that you were going to be a part of it when the game happened, but he always made sure by telling his staff to make sure that guys were ready. I'll never forget, and I tell Randy Wheel was one of our assistant coaches. He was the head coach at Middle Tennessee State for a while at UNC Asheville. He would come to me on a regular basis and tell me to get ready, to be ready. Coach was talking about you in our meetings today and in practice. He said you had a great practice, be ready for the game. And I may not even get in that next game, but he always had you prepared. He always had the people around him telling guys to focus, to lock into the game plan, to know what's going on, because you never know when your opportunity could present itself. Like the national championship game, I get in with 3-4 other reserves that don't play a lot because our starters had played 6 or 7 straight consecutive minutes without a TV timeout. So we have to go in the game, and we get crushed by Billy Packer, and he's killing Coach Smith about putting us in at that point of the game. But that was a crucial moment to give our starters or give our main guys a rest. And there were games where guys got hurt, and you never know when your opportunity is going to present itself. So getting everybody ready, getting everybody locked in and focused was the thing that he did. And he told his people around him, hey, make sure that these guys every day in practice, it doesn't matter what numbered position they are, they got to be ready due to injury, sickness, foul trouble, fatigue. You never know when that opportunity presents itself.
I remember talking to Jeff And at one time, when I think Coach Guthrie stepped down, there was a question on who was going to take over, and I was like, Jeff, recruiting at North Carolina, you just take the top 8 guys in the country on Bob Gibbons' list, and you go recruit those 8 guys. He was like, absolutely not. He went Coach Smith. It was so he did get McDonald's All-Americans, but he got the right kind, correct? I mean, he really he had to get. I think. Rick Byrd is like one of my heroes, and he gets the right guys for him. They may not be the right guys for everybody. See, I think it's all done. Here's what I think. I don't think there is a right way. I think you got to get guys who you can coach, and whatever that is. And I think Dean Smith got the McDonald's All-Americans that he could coach because there were probably some that he couldn't. Correct?
Agreed, 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. And the advice, after, and I don't, certainly not at a point in my life, I think, where I've got all the answers, but what I've gone through, what you've gone through, we can look back and see that, number one, you have to recruit the guys that you can coach. You have to do that. And it's hard in the recruiting process, but you got to identify the characteristics, obviously guys that fit your philosophy of your play on the court, but also your philosophy of what you're looking for, whether it's character or integrity or whatever the characteristics that you look for in a person and someone that you can coach and be around every single day and enjoy being around them. If you don't even enjoy being around somebody, it's not going to work no matter what you're doing. But yeah, Coach Smith identified the guys that were really talented, but the guys that were part of a team system and fit his philosophy, fit his beliefs. And I think another thing I would throw on top of that to help coaches is you kind of have to identify the place that you're in. You have to figure out what that place, how you can recruit to it, what kind of kids you can get to that place, because every university, every situation is different. Every school is different. How you can recruit, who you can get in based on academics, based on test score, but the social environment, there's a lot of factors that go in. And I think that's what took me a little while longer at High Point is to figure out the climate, to figure out what we can get, how we can get this kid or how we can get this player. How do they fit our needs? Would this kid fit in our social climate? Would they fit in our environment at the university? Would they be successful academically, socially, physically, all the stuff that goes into it. And that I would tell coaches, when you get a job or when you're looking at getting a job, try to identify the environment, meaning administration. What's your support? Where's your support going to come from? What kind of kid can you recruit? What kind of kid academically can you recruit? And then which kids will survive in the environment that you're in? And the kind of kids that you can coach. I can coach a particular type of kid. That doesn't mean that other coaches can't have success teaching somebody else. And there is no right way, like you said. There's a million different ways to do it, but identifying that the place you're in, who you can go get, how do they fit your system, how do they fit the environment, the climate, the university, and do you enjoy coaching them? I mean, that's to go back and do it again if I get another opportunity. There'll be a lot of evaluation and review and digging deeper into some of the things that I value more so than just throwing the most talented guy on the floor.
Yeah, it's easy, but let me make sure that you remember this, and I'll remind you. A lot of people in the coaching world in Division I basketball would, I think, probably kill to have your resume, young man. So remember that as we continue talking. Do you hear me?
I hear you.
All right, good. I just want to make sure we didn't have a bad connection, that you actually heard that.
I got it.
Because and I'll get back on this, and then we're going to go to high school coaching in a second. All right, yep. But I the longer I'm out of it, and then really watching, and I've watched a lot of practices. I used to think there was a right way. You got to do it the right way, and you build it the right way. And it's easy to say that Rick Byrd, those guys. He doesn't even have a whistle at practice. everybody's got the same uniform on. No one's got a T-shirt underneath their thing. There's no cussing. It's the right way, correct? It's the right way. Well, there's a lot of right ways. And then I go to ETSU, and Forbes is acting like a wild man. And let me just tell you something. He does it the right way. Because he coaches kids that he can coach, and those dudes are tough as nails, and he wins a lot of games, and people in Johnson City love him and adore him. Mike Young at Wofford, doing it the right way. Everybody is doing it. If you're having success and you're really helping those kids, it doesn't really matter as long as it fits you as a coach. And I mean, Forbes is giving guys second chances and succeeding in that. And helping those kids become grown men. And those kids need Steve Forbes. And so when people say the right way, I don't think there is a perfect right way, except if you can coach them. But if you can't coach those kids, you can't. And you're recruiting just off talent, you're going to have some issues. You're gonna have a lot of issues. All right, so you're okay. High school coach, because you're fooling around and helping Coach Harrington down there this year. If you got a high school kid, all right, and that doesn't fit in, all right, and he may be a bit of a cancer, and he's got an attitude, and you didn't recruit him because he just ended up because he was in your school district. How do you think you should handle that guy?
Well, you have to have a conversation with him and talk to him and try to work through the kid himself. I think this is my opinion. And again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's however the situation fits you as a person. And, you have to have the conversation with the kid, because if you allow that to go on, no matter what level of basketball, it doesn't matter. My son's 6th grade team, or if it's an AAU team, or if it's a high school team, college team, pro team, if you allow that to go on, the other kids are smart. They're going to try to take advantage of whatever's happening with the other person. If they're allowed to get away with stuff, then they're going to test the limits. That's just how young people work. And that's how human beings work. So you've got to address it. And, the thing in college you have the ability to do is, kids, you just tell them, listen, this isn't the right situation for you, and the scholarship's no longer there, and it's not running anybody off. It's just, hey, listen, this isn't working for us. We need to find you a better opportunity. High school, is a little different, but, there's a lot of transferring going on in high school too now. So I think you just have to have the conversation. You have to address it with the parents or the guardians or whoever the people are that are in their life, and tell them that this is not how we operate. This is not what we do. This is not what we believe in. You have an opportunity to correct your actions. And if he doesn't, then you got to remove him. And I know that's hard to say because he might be the only player on your team that is really good. You can't go out and recruit another one to fit his spot like you can in college, or trade like you can in the NBA. But ultimately, you got to fall back on your principles and your beliefs. And if winning is more important than teaching these young people how to act, what you need to do, what the right way to play the game is, and the right way to address people and act. I think the winning part has really, and obviously because of my situation and what's happened to me, I think winning has superseded all the other stuff that you do very well as a coach, in terms of mentoring young people, helping them become better people, helping them become better students, graduating them, all the stuff that should be valued way more than whether or not you make an NCAA tournament appearance or whether or not you're winning a bunch of games. But I understand that it's part of it. But if I have that situation if I'm the head coach, I've got to address it. I've got to get it settled one way or another. Either you want to be a part of this and move forward and do it like we want it done, or we got to separate and go our different paths.
I think it's the sleep test. I think if a coach can put his head on a pillow and sleep good at night, then he's in good shape. And I know you had many nights where you didn't sleep and you didn't know. If there's a gut feel and you've got a cancer in your program and you try to help, especially in high school, you're trying to help that kid. Hey, listen, I love you. I care for you. I want to help you before you get into a situation later on. It's going to be a disaster. All right, whether you go play college basketball, where you just try to go get a job and you're belligerent and you're tough or you're not showing up on time, you're going to get fired. I'm going to try to help you. And if you can't be helped, then I'm going to have to get rid of you. I mean, very simple, because you got to help that kid grow up. But if he's a cancer, I said it before. My father died of cancer 26 years ago. You try to cut the cancer out. You don't put the cancer back in. And so you want to get rid of the cancer so you can live in a healthy way and happy way. All right, let's go back to Dean Smith. Go back to Coach Smith. Give me some other thoughts. The one thing that I noticed when I went to a coach's clinic that I got to sneak in, I was the adopted Carolina guy because I worked for Lebo. And Coach Smith said one day, he said, "John, you've been kind of quiet back there." I said, "Yes, sir, that's my job, is to shut up and listen." He went, "Good answer, John, good answer." But I remember on a wall in his office, it was a wall of families. And on that wall, there were pictures of everybody's family that had played for Coach Smith. So I'm assuming he was a big family guy.
He was. His memory, and you hear the stories, but he could see somebody in my family once, and 6 months later they come walking through the office doors, and he would remember their name and call them by their first name. Whether it was one of my brothers or whoever it was, he would remember their names. His memory was phenomenal, and it's ironic that that's what failed him at the end of his life, unfortunately, because that was the thing. His memory, in terms of knowing situations, knowing people, knowing how to make an adjustment late game, how to do this, his memory was phenomenal. And he was a tremendous family man. He cared about his family, but also his players. And that's what the Carolina family was really all about. Like we all came back in the summertime. Everybody did. It was like that's where you went to spend your summer times, to see Coach and the assistant coaches and the secretaries, and we all hung out together as a family. It didn't matter if it was Michael Jordan or if it was me, or it just did not matter. Everybody came back through there at some point during the summer times, and to see each other, to hang out, to play pickup, just to reconnect with each other. But it was all because of Coach and the atmosphere that he created.
Tell us more about the atmosphere, because a lot of programs win and not everybody comes back. What about it? What's the atmosphere? Tell us about it so we can learn.
It was just it was something built over time, that if you were part of a 60s team or 70s team that you played with Coach, you were always welcome to come back. Like there was no, and I know that everybody says that in today's world, but we get kind of caught up in, because as a head coach, I wanted to do that too, but you get caught up in so many other things now where you don't focus the time on that stuff that really matters. But he honestly would send out letters to us all the time. It'd be a typed letter, but at the bottom he would handwrite something on there pertaining to you and your family, and it would always have something in there like, how does he remember that? Like something that was going on with, I can't give you a specific example, but something that was going on. He would meet with you on a regular basis to talk about what you needed to do, how you needed to this summer. These are the 3 things you got to work on, and then would contact you throughout the summer. How are you doing with this? How's this? Is this going well? And then when you got done playing, he would help you get a job somewhere, somehow. Now, he wouldn't do all the work for you, but I remember when I came back from overseas, when I got done playing, I got a job, was a salesman for a forklift company for about 2.5 years. And then I just said, I got to get back into basketball. I just love the game so much, and coaching is the thing for me. And so I went and met with him, and he sat me down and he said, okay. I said, Coach, I really want to coach. He's like, college basketball? I said, yes, would love to. Division I, yes, absolutely. Men's Division I basketball if I can. He said, okay, let me ask you one question. I said, okay, are you willing to go anywhere in the country? I'm talking anywhere: Alaska, Wyoming, North Dakota, I'm talking anywhere. And I said, yeah. He said, no, I don't think you understand what I'm asking. Like, you have to be willing to go anywhere, because I'm not going to stick my neck out and make some phone calls or recommend you and have you come back to me and say, well, no, I can't move to Maine, or I can't move to New Mexico. He's like, you have to be willing as a college coach to move anywhere to take a job, to do what you want to do and that you love. And I said, yeah, coach, I get exactly what you're saying. I'm willing to go anywhere, anytime. Tell me when and where, and I'll be there. So it was, he took care of his former players, and then you can see the ultimate sign of the Carolina family, of the thing that he built, was when he passed away, that each player received a check of money. And when you got the check, it just said, here's something for you and your family. Go out and have a nice dinner. Like, I mean, it was little stuff like that.
Who does that? Who does? I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. Who does that?
Nobody does it today. And little things like that. But it wasn't just that one time. It was different things he did, like upon graduation. All these little things that, as a player, you could see him constantly doing things. And you said earlier, a lot of the rules now in the NCAA are due to guys like Coach Smith, because he always pushed the envelope. Mm-hmm. He never stepped over the line, but if there was something, there was a loophole, he would do it for us. And then the NCAA would find out and say, oh, you can't do that. Like 4 corners, here comes the shot clock. There were a lot of things, innovations,
yeah,
but not only in the game of basketball, but off the court, where he took care of the guys in the program, and you could see how he took care of former players when they got done playing. I mean, and that was the thing that you knew at the end of the day, that man was going to take care of you, no matter what you did, how many games you won, what player you were on the team, best player, 15th guy, did not make a difference.
Well, I'm assuming, every coach thinks we're all X and O gurus. But at the end of the day, I had Coach Crimmins on earlier when we first started the podcast. Bobby Crimmins is by far the nicest human alive. All right? Mm-hmm. Great human. He'd be the first to tell you he wasn't an X and O guru, but he was a relationship guru. And those kids played hard for him. He may not know an X and O, but he knows a Jimmy and a Joe, and he had a great relationship with those kids. Now, Coach Smith was an X and O guru, and it sounds like he was a Jimmy and Joe guru in that he loved those kids, and those kids loved him. I mean, you don't keep coming back to Carolina every summer if he doesn't mean something to you.
No, and I think that's what makes the elite guys.
Yeah.
Elite. I mean, there's a lot of great coaches out there, and and I know that there's a lot of guys right now, and not in the coaching profession, that are great coaches. Like yourself. There's a lot of really good basketball coaches out there, for circumstances out of their control, aren't doing what they love to do. But coach had both parts, and those elite guys, the John Woodens and the Dean Smiths, and go down the list of the great ones that have ever coached. They had both of those parts really, really well. And then fortunate breaks, obviously you got to have some luck factored in there, but
yeah,
those guys could recruit the right type of kids for them. You have to coach your personality, that you that's who you are. Don't try to be something that you're not. And then you have to invest in them and have them believe that, you care about them wholeheartedly, and that you'll do everything for them, whether it's winning a basketball game or helping them get a job someday or whatever it might be. And he was elite with that. I mean, absolutely one of the best.
You can't trick kids, and
no,
and both ways. And
yep.
I'll be the first to tell you, in 04, 05, when I first became a head coach at Chattanooga, there was no one better in America at relationships with our players than me. Nobody better in America. And it's funny. We went to the NCAA tournament. We won the regular season title. We led Chris Paul at half. I was the man when it came to relationships with our kids. And the further on it went, and the more pressure you go under, I was probably by far the worst in America at the end with relationships with those kids, because it became about winning, and I lost sight of what was important. And so, if I did it again, relationships would be number one, because that's what it's all about. So I'm going to ask you, you take over a program tomorrow. Give me your 5 things that, remember, this is helping young coaches too, and old coaches, all right? Coaches are coaches. Coaching is a calling to me. It's not a job. So give me your 5 things, not that you would change. Some of them you probably would do, but what are a few things that would be very, very important to you as you take over a new program right now after what you've been through? And remember what you've been through. Remember this, you did win, and you won big, but some things are out of our control, and you'll get another shot. And so when you get another shot, tell me what are the important things you're going to do.
Well, I think number one, you have to surround yourself with the people as close to what you believe and have the philosophies, and you're only as good as the people that work with you. It doesn't matter what level of business you're in. It doesn't matter what profession. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I think you got to, number one, try to surround yourself and hire the people that you know that you can trust and that you believe that are doing the job when you're not, because you cannot do everything by yourself. It is physically, I tried my first couple of years and I almost killed myself. I almost literally physically killed myself. You can't do it yourself. You have to rely on the people around you and value them and make sure that they are important, they feel important, and that you give them the things that they need to do the job well. If they're doing it well, tell them that. If they're not, you need to instruct them. It's not about berating somebody or demeaning them. It's about instructing and teaching them, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to do it. And everybody needs to be rowing in the same direction. The teams that I've been a part of that have been the most successful, the entire staff did not care who got the credit. Didn't matter. If one guy recruited the 3 best players, great. Hey, that's good for all of us.
Absolutely.
As long as we're all doing our job and working every single day to be the best that we can be, because if they win, we win. If one individual wins, we all win. It's our team. It's our group. We're all working together to get to the same place and get to the same level of success. So one, it would spend a lot of time focusing on, and to me, and I know there's different levels, you got to look at different things, but for me, it wasn't maybe the most experienced guy or the best recruiter, or to me, it's really the guy that can build relationships with the kids. And again, every situation's different. I understand that. So I can't pinpoint it to be like, hey, I got to go get the best recruiters, or I got to go get the best coaches, X's and O's, or I got to get the best personalities. There's no right way or wrong way to do it. It has to fit where you're at and who you are as a person. And do you want to be with them and around them? Mm-hmm. Number 2, I would spend a lot of time, like I said, that I think the climate, the environment, the university, the school, what works for you, what fits your school, what fits that particular place. And I think that has a lot to going in, because every place is different. Every place puts different values on different things. And you really got to look and see, all right, this type of kid wants to be a part of our program. Will he survive here? Will he survive what we are asking him to do? Because we're going to be asking him to do certain things at a high level. And can he survive that? 3, I would pick people's brains more. I didn't spend enough time asking people in and out of the business that have had success, not only in the basketball world, but at other businesses. I didn't spend enough time picking their brains, finding out what works. Hey, how do you do this? Coach Larinaga at Miami is one of the best at that. He picks people's brains. He talks to people about different things. He figures out way to motivating his guys. He just spends a lot of time investing in looking at different ways to do things, still fitting within your core values, but how can I adjust with what we have in front of us?
Alan
Uh, the,
LaForce, my mentor, Alan LaForce, would take time in the summer and study a particular part of the game.
yep,
And take that time in the summer rather than he was a terrible golfer, still is a bad golfer. Now he's 83. All right. But he would take time to study free throw shooting or take time to study press offense or a 1-3-1 and get better and talk to people and study from people and go visit people. So absolutely. All right, go on.
yep,
That's good stuff.
yeah. Another thing would be to me is you have to adjust. Now, you try to in college, you try to recruit to your basic philosophy of how you want to play, whether it's fast, slow, pack line, pressure defense, press, zone, whatever you feel comfortable with. And I made a mistake, and I could admit it, of not getting exactly what I needed in terms of later on in my last few years of the exact personnel that we had success with four straight teams. And you kind of get lose focus sometimes. Like Jay Wright maybe talks about the story of Villanova when they went to their first one. He kind of got away from what they believed in, and they had a bad year or two, whatever it was. It's You've got to adjust, especially in high school, to your personnel, and you can't be stuck on, like when I left Carolina, I would go to a school and say, "Oh, we're going to run Carolina system. That's what we do. That's the best thing to run." Well, your personnel doesn't always fit that. Now you
I
have
mean,
to
you
have
don't
to.
have two 7-footers down there and force everything baseline and let them block everything?
No, I
Not
didn't have
everywhere
too
you
many.
go. Okay.
Nah, I didn't have too many of those.
I
At
got you.
George Mason, our two post players, when we went to the Final Four, were 6'5" and 6'6". So and again, you have to have your base system. You have to have your base of this is what we like to do, but you have to be able to take that time, like you said, in the summer, and look at your personnel moving forward, and be able to adjust and modify, not completely change. You know, you don't want to go from run and gun to Princeton, but being able to make little tweaks, to make little adjustments, to spending a little bit more time on certain things with certain teams based on youth, based on an experienced team. You know, it's all based on what you have on your roster. And you got to be able to evaluate last year and look at next year and say, all right, we got this coming back. Are we going to be able to do that the same way? Or do we need to make a little adjustment? And you may figure out as the course of the season's going on, you may not figure it out until January or February. I know at George Mason, when we made that run, we were a pressure defensive team, scramble team, thumbs up, thumbs down, trapping people. And then we figured out we only had a rotation of 7 or 8 guys, and we backed it up and just pressured 21 feet and in, and just tried to force teams to shoot and not foul. And so we made that adjustment like in January. So there's times that you'll make changes even though you have this greatest plan laid out in front of you before the season starts. But looking at that and looking at your roster and looking at your personnel and being able to be open-minded to adjust slightly based on what you have, and not saying, well, we're going to do this. This is what we do no matter what. Well, if the personnel doesn't fit it and they can't do it physically or mentally, then you're making a mistake as a coach. So those would be 3 or 4 things that I would look back at and try to do a little bit more of or a little bit less of, and focus on those things to make sure that those areas, because ultimately it's relationships. Like if those kids believe in you and believe in the people around you that you've hired and believe in the school that they're at, and they feel like they've got the support and the love and the backing, then even if you make an adjustment with something, they'll be okay with it because they know that they're loved and they're cared for, and that you're doing everything you can to make them a better person, a better player, and to get them to where they ultimately want to go, because they each got individual goals. And you got to take those individual goals, help them try to reach them, but also formulate that into your team plan of, ultimately we want to win a championship.
And that is what you learn from Dean Smith. I mean, because it all comes back to relationships. It all comes back to the kids. And we lose sight, and everybody lose sights, and we X and O upon the board. Remember, every X and every O is a human. And we better take care of those kids. Coach DeForest was a maniac with our kids. Every time we took our kids to his house to eat dinner before a game, with him and Miss DeForest treating us for dinner and them seeing him as a normal human, I don't think we ever lost the next night. And the same thing with me. Every time I had those kids over to our house and just had fun with them, and they saw me as a husband and a dad and a regular human, boy, we played our tail ends off the next day. And so they're kids. I mean, they're 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids. They think they're grown men. They're kids. And so we've got to love those kids. And it sounds like you had an unbelievable experience with Dean Smith, winning a national championship and he always made you feel important.
Oh, for sure. And the last thing I would add is, and this goes back to Coach Smith, goes back to what I would look at and spend more time at, is the details of the fundamental stuff. You lose focus as the season starts. You think you got a game plan. You think you got to scout the opponent. You think you got to work on the fundamentals of the basic game of basketball today are slipping a little bit in my opinion. And I see it now more that I've stepped away from it, and I'm at the high school level, and I've got my son who's in the 6th grade, and I go to his practices and watch and help a little bit. I start to see the fundamentals of just making layups, making free throws, blocking a man out, being able to pass the ball and catch the ball, and being able to make the right pass in the right situation of live play, whether it be 2-on-1, 3-on-2, 5-on-5, whether understanding how to play the game as opposed to just playing it full speed all the time. I think that would be something that, again, I lost sight of that and got away from doing a lot of the basic fundamental stuff of shooting, passing, dribbling. And again, it all is based on where you are and who you are and what you do. But I would look at that and spend more time, because if guys can't make layups, if they can't make open shots, you can be John Wooden and run the best play in the world. You can be Dean Smith and have the best offense that gets you the best shots you can get. If you can't make them, if you can't get down in a stance and guard your man one-on-one, then I don't care what defense it is you're going to play. So those little things, again, it's hard when you're in the moment and you're trying to win games. But passing, catching, making layups, making free throws, being able to shoot the basketball, being able to make the right play at the right time is something that I would spend time on, making sure my kids understand it.
Scott, I'm so old. I still remember I went to Carolina's practice, and he brought those wood, they were like old wood basketball, the backboards. He brought a thing out, the system right in the middle, raised it, and they had 4 goals they had 4 goals. There was a goal on each side. And there were so many baskets, and guys were working only on fundamentals. For young coaches now, it's too bad that they don't remember Coach Smith and what he did, and they think that the Dean Dome just got there. And I get that, but it's up to you, my friend, to pass the word, and you'll be back on the sideline soon. And we just appreciate your time and your honesty and being open about Coach Smith and just trying to learn from the past. And we really appreciate it. Look forward to watching you on that sideline here soon.
All right, appreciate it, Coach.
Now go be a great dad. Take care of that boy and that wife, and enjoy Memphis. But we do appreciate your time.
Anytime.
All right,
Thank
buddy.
you, guys.
Take care.